Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, building experiences that connect, remove friction, and deliver insights. Well, hi everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is Jeremy Burt. Jeremy is the head of the ERP Business Development at Paya, a Nuvei Company. He is a former founder and CEO of VelocIT Business Solutions. Jeremy has spent the last 15 years in payments, with 10 years specifically in ERP integrations. Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, Jeremy Burt.
Awesome. Thanks for the intro, Ed.
Well, first off, Jeremy, why do you do what you do?
Well, we really do it to serve the clients and the customers and to simplify payments. I think our mantra right now, and probably resonates with a lot of consultants, is we're trying to make payments simpler, but that is really all kind of wrapped up into we solve payments, a little bit of a play on we solve problems.
And tell me why it's been so, historically challenging to integrate payments with ERP systems.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different front ends that your customers interact with. So we all are aware of the e-commerce movement, card not present. That's especially one of the strengths with Nuvei. And historically, Paya, as a carve out from Sage, was natively built into the back-end processing system. And there's a lot of real estate between those. You have quoting systems, you have retail point of sale, you have obviously not just the online commerce, but you have a lot of different flavors of that. And as all of those front-end experiences sort of exploded out there and how we reach our people, data was very quickly trying to get gathered up and as a one-step fluid process from that transaction to bring that order in and automate your processes. Essentially, that's that gap we fill is all that middle. And that's what's been very complicated is that there's been a lot of factions involved, and we're starting to see a lot of that align. And where we already sit in that back end, in that ERP, it's very clear that on the front end, automating those payments, and then automating the reconciliation back to helping the accounting people. So if we know where the payment came from and it natively is built into the accounting system, then we should be able, when that deposit comes in from us as a processor, also settle that and do your bank rec and other automations. And so that's what our focus has been the last really couple years. I've been here with Paya for about 18 months. And that's something that we've really been trying to tighten up is all those commerce experiences.
And of course, customers just expect it to just work because they have that experience of going to the Home Depot and going to all those places and just being able to use their payment, and it seems to work seamlessly. So what is, can you give me an example of maybe a customer success story that you've had for an organization that was maybe struggling with it and then has had some success?
Yeah, I think we could insert probably Amperage Electric is one of the great ones that we did with VelocIT, which is they're your typical supply house, right? So I think in fact they just recently got purchased by CED or consolidated with national brand. Their challenge is that when they wanted to speed up the collections process, didn't want so many contractors on terms accounts. I don't think we have to explain what happened during COVID and all of the things that have affected suppliers. Well, to do that, they had to be able to accept a credit card. And with the volume of transactions they had, they needed what seems simple to everybody, that same checkout that you have at your big box store. So that's what we did is we extended Sage 100 to accept a PIN pad with a signature collection device right there at the sales counter to just speed up that whole transaction process. And then we took it a step further and used all that data for reconciliation and all sorts of fun stuff. But for them, it allowed them to have 8 checkout lanes in one particular, I guess you'd call it a showroom in a supply house, but in one area where they're able to essentially check out contractors as they go, which sped up their cash flow because they're not on terms, reduced their risk, and then gave customers an expected checkout. To the customer, what we do is not groundbreaking. You and I use it every day. So in the ERP space, it has been a challenge because of all of the technology that goes into making that work.
And there's just so many different possible sources, for example, that's a challenge. So are you guys able to handle that stuff as well? So if it's not just maybe a checkout experience, but then also that same company with an online experience as well?
Correct. And that's, everybody has talked about omni-channel. Omni-channel is one processor that can essentially handle your card not present or your mobile, if you have mobile workforce, or, the card present transaction at the point of sale, and then the online commerce, right? So that's what omni-channel is. The difference is that nobody's really been able to do all of those modalities into one gateway, all funneled into one accounting system, really, successfully. You can usually do it if you control the development of how that checkout experience happens on that front end. But, Shopify doesn't allow everybody in. We do have a gateway there. We have methods for BigCommerce and we have plugins for Magento and all these things. So depending on what the customer strategy is of that other side of the omni-channel experience, which is e-commerce, we support lots and lots of gateways and have a very sophisticated strategy of how we do that. There's a couple components, fraud, and we'll layer in another gateway to kind of give you the best-in-class fraud management, using a third-party gateway. I think that's where Nuvei is going to give us a lot of strength. And then Nuvei is obviously going to be able to take us nationally and into a lot of alternative payment methods. So what we have today is strong, but we actually, I think, are going to have the product of the future in the channel. Over the coming years, you're going to see a lot of innovation coming out of Nuvei and the Paya partnership.
Jeremy, we have an exit question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, who is a hero of yours and why are they a hero?
Well, I think for me, it's pretty easy to go back to, I know it's a little cliche and simple, but, people say their father. I come from a family of a mill worker. So that there's no excuse to miss work, 43 years on the job, one sick day where he actually had a heart arrhythmia and they sent him out. It's that old school mentality that I think all of us, especially that I support business owners, I think that's the quick connection that I have with a lot of these consultants and business owners is we're always on. And I think that comes from the fact that, my father was, one of those guys. I should say is still very active, very healthy. After 43 years of retirement, the guy still walks 5 miles every day. So I aspire to, have a long, healthy life and productive life, and also just a great contribution to society. My father and mother do a lot of volunteering in our community, and so that I would say that's my hero and the person I model. So,
and Jeremy, how can somebody contact you?
The best way to contact me is jeremy.burt@paya.com. And you can also reach me on LinkedIn, always available, and kind of have a weird addiction to my social media and DMs. So I always like to respond very quickly.
All right. Jeremy Burt, head of ERP Business Development at Paya. Thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Ed.
Review and subscribe by searching your podcast player of choice for Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.